prescribed ziarat of Imam al-Hussein pbuh 1 was recited by Imam al-Mahdi pbuh and reached us through one of his 4 special deputies. For that reason, it is known as the ziarat that was issued from the sacred site Ziarat al-Nahia al-Muqaddasa. One of the most important features of this ziarat is that in different phrases, Imam al-Mahdi pbuh graphically describes the events of Ashura and the agony that Imam al-Hussein pbuh and his family faced on that horrific and ominous day. Peace be upon Adam, the senior most of Allah among his creation. Peace be upon Shiz, the wali of Allah due to his goodness. Peace be upon Idris A.S., who was established by Allah with proof, Hujjat. Peace be upon Nu A.S., the one whose invocations were accepted. Peace be upon Hud A.S., who was the recipient of help from Allah by seeking Allah's help. Peace be upon Salah A.S., the one whom Allah made important through his mercy and generosity. Peace be upon Ibrahim A.S., whom Allah accepted as his friend. Peace be upon Ismail A.S., the one whom Allah bestowed with ransom from heaven in view of the great sacrifice Ziv Azim. Peace be upon Ishaq A.S., the one in whose progeny Allah has established prophethood. Peace be upon Yaqub A.S., the one for whom Allah restored sight by his mercy. Peace be upon Yusuf A.S., the one whom Allah rescued from the well, by his greatness. Peace be upon Musa A.S., the one for whom Allah parted the sea by his power. Peace be upon Harun A.S., the one who was bestowed distinction by Allah due to his prophethood. Peace be upon Shub A.S., the one whom Allah helped for achieving victory upon his people. Peace be upon Dawood A.S., the one whom Allah forgave after his mistake of Taqiyawiyah. Peace be upon Suleiman A.S., the one under whose might Allah subjugated the jinns. Peace be upon Ayub A.S., the one whom Allah cured after his prolonged illness. Peace be upon Yunus A.S., the one whose promise Allah fulfilled that which he had undertaken to perform. Peace be upon Uzair A.S., whom Allah brought to life after his death. Peace be upon Zachariah A.S., who remained most patient in his tribulations. Peace be upon Yahya A.S., whom Allah raised in status after his martyrdom. Peace be upon Isa A.S., the Spirit of Allah and his word, Kalima. Peace be upon Muhammad S. A. W. S. the beloved of Allah, and his senior most prophet. Peace be upon the chief of believers, Ali ibn Abi Talib A. S. whom Allah bestowed the distinction of the brotherhood of the Prophet S. A. Peace be upon Fatima S. A. his prophet's daughter. Peace be upon Abu Muhammad Hassan A. S. the wasi of his father's will and his vicegerent. Peace be upon Hussein A. S. who sacrificed his remaining life for Allah despite his injuries. Peace be upon the one who obeyed Allah secretly and openly. Peace be upon the one whose grave soil is bestowed with curative powers by Allah. Peace be upon the one, in whose progeny is a mamat till the day of Qiyamah. Peace be upon the son of the seal of the prophets. Peace be upon the son of the chief of the successes. Peace be upon the son of Fatima Zahra S. A. Peace be upon the son of Cartier al-Kubra. Peace be upon the son of Sidratul Muntaha. Peace be upon the son of Janatul Mawa. Peace be upon the son of Zamzam and Safa. Peace be upon the one who was smeared in blood. Peace be upon the one whose tents were torn asunder. Peace be upon the fifth one of the people of Kisat blanket. Peace be upon the most helpless of the wayfarers. Peace be upon the one who has suffered the maximum pain among all the martyrs. Peace be upon the one who was killed by illegitimate born people. Peace be upon the one who camped at Karbala. Peace be upon the one for whom the angels of the sky wept. Peace be upon the one who has purified imams in his progeny. Peace be upon the chiefs of the faith. Peace be upon the destinations of proofs of Allah. Peace be upon the imams, the guides of mankind. Peace be upon the blood-smeared necks. Peace be upon the lips that were parched due to thirst. Peace be upon those martyrs who were cut into pieces. Peace be upon the souls whose belongings were plundered soon after their killings. Peace be upon the uncovered dead bodies. Peace be upon the emaciated and the deformed corpses. Peace be upon the deluge of the martyr's blood. Peace be upon the dismembered limbs. Peace be upon the heads that were raised on the lances. Peace be upon the D1-ast women, who were forcibly exposed. Peace be upon the proof of the Lord of the worlds. Peace be upon you and upon your purified ancestors. Peace be upon you and upon your martyred offspring. Peace be upon you and upon your offsprings who helped you. Peace be upon you and upon the angels that accompanied you. Peace be upon the one who was killed unjustly. Peace be upon your brother Imam Hassan A.S., who was poisoned to death. Peace be upon Ali the elder, Ali Akbar. Peace be upon the suckling, young one, Syria. Peace be upon the bodies that were hung after being killed. Peace be upon the nearest of the Prophet's progeny. Peace be upon the corpses that were abandoned in the desert. Peace be upon the travelers who were driven out from their homes. Peace be upon those who were buried without shrouds. Peace be upon the pure heads which were severed from the bodies. Peace be upon the one who remained patient in calamities. Peace be upon those oppressed ones who had no helper. Peace be upon the one who reposes in the purified tombs. Peace be upon the master of the lofty dome. Peace be upon the one who is purified by the mighty Allah. Peace be upon the one who was prided upon by Jibreel. Peace be upon the one who was put to sleep in the cradle by Mikael. Peace be upon the one regarding whom oaths were broken. Peace be upon the one whose dignity was lowered. Peace be upon the one whose blood was shed unjustly. Peace be upon the one who was bathed in the blood of his own wounds. Peace be upon the one who was attacked with spears from all sides. Peace be upon the one who was inflicted with a very kind of atrocity. Peace be upon the one whom the killers surrounded. Peace be upon the one who was buried by the villages. Peace be upon the one whose jugular vein was severed with cruelty. Peace be upon the one who warded off the enemies all alone. Peace be upon the one whose hair was dyed red in blood. Peace be upon the blood-smeared cheeks. Peace be upon one he dust-smeared body. Peace be upon the teeth that were hid with an oppressive baton. Peace be upon the glorified head which was raised on the lance. Peace be upon the corpses that lay uncovered, and the tyrants of this ummat shook them violently as they ran about like wolves. And like the carnivores they inflicted injuries upon them. Peace be upon you, my master, and peace be also upon those angels who collect around your blessed tomb and circumnated your holy courtyard and remain present for your ziarat. Peace be upon you. So I have intended towards you, and I am hopeful for achieving success in your place of audience. Salutations be upon you, the salutation of the one who recognizes your honorable position, one who is sincere in your wilayat, one who seeks nearness to Allah through your love, one who is aloof from your enemies. Salutations of the one whose heart is wounded due to the tribulations suffered by you, and the one who weeps when you are remembered. Salutation of the one who is extremely grievous, dejected and forlorn by the calamities suffered by you. Salam of the one who, if he had been present with you at Karbala, he would have thrown himself upon the flood of the swords and sacrificed his last drop of blood for you. And he would have participated with fervor in jihad in your presence, and he would have helped you against your enemies, and sacrificed for you his soul and his body, his property, his children. Even his soul would have been sacrificed for your purified soul, and his family would have sacrificed them's one vest for your family members. Since I have been pushed behind by the passage of time and being prevented from helping you by fate, and I could not fight those who had fought you. And since I had not been able to face your enemies, I will continue to weep morning and evening and weep for you with tears of blood. The pain and sorrow of your Kayan Wanis and the painful sighs will never recede. So much so, that I will depart from this world with the same grief and sorrow of the tribula Wanis suffered by you. I witness that certainly you established the prayer and gave zakat, and enjoined good and forbade evil. You obeyed Allah and never disobeyed Him, and remained in contact with Him, and satisfied Him, and were awed by Him, and were attentive towards Him, and satisfied with His wish and will. And you promoted the sunnah practice of Allah and the Prophet, and annihilated corruption, and invited people towards the truth, and showed clearly the rightful ways, and performed jihad like it deserves to be performed in the way of Allah. And you proved to be perfectly obedient to Allah. And you followed perfectly your grandfather, Muhammad, peace be upon him and his progeny, and listened to the teachings of your father, and executed the will of your brother Hassan A.S. promptly. And you raised the pillars of faith and dug up the foundations of corruption, and trampled the heads of the disobedient, and you are the sincere advisor of the Ummah of the Prophet, and simmer in the whirlpool of death, and you are the one who is merciful towards Islam and the Muslims, and a supporter of truth and most patient in the calamities and the protector of faith, and one who deflects those who attack it. You protect guidance and help it, and propagate justice and equity and help the religion and make it manifested and hinder and obstruct those people who consider it lowly, and extract the rights of the weak from the strong. And with regard to the orders, both of them, the weak and the strong, were equal in your eyes. And you were springtime for the orphans and a refuge for the creatures and honor of Islam and a mine of divine laws, and possessed the capability of fulfilling the needs of the needful. You walked the path of your grandfather and your father, and like your brother, Hassan, you enjoined good. And you fulfilled your duties and responsibilities with utmost readiness. Well known for your charity, you performed the midnight prayer. Your path was firm, benevolent among the creatures, greatest for every excellence, respectable with regard to the lineage. Your perfection was at its peak and you had an exalted position for your several excellencies. You were of a high status and had many meritorious qualities. Your manners were praiseworthy, your bestowals were valuable. You were magnanimous, guide, and very benevolent, knowledgeable, a martyred imam and one who warned the people with regards to Allah's commands. You are the son of the Hay Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, and a support for the Holy Quran and the arms of the Ummah Muslims. And the one strived much in the way of Allah's obedience. Protector of the oath and promise. You remained away from the wasty the transgresses. A giver to those in trouble. One who prolonged the ruku and sajda. Unattached to the world as if you have to leave it soon. You always viewed the world with dislike. Your wishes were not worldly. You were very far from its comforts and embellishments and aloof from its pomp. And it is well known that your attachment is only with the hereafter. Till the time that corruption became audacious and the slight veil lifted from the face of injustice and it summoned its cahoots for support. Then at that time you were at the sanctuary of your grandfather, Medina, and absolutely aloof from the unjust people. You sat in the prayer niche, busy in the prayers. You were far from the worldly vices and desires. You protected your heart and the tongue from every evil, and in proportion to your strength and ability you kept yourself secure. Then through your truth-perceptive knowledge you refused the allegiance to Yazid, and made it incumbent upon yourself to fight against the transgressors and the corrupt. Then you immediately set out in company of your sons, family members, followers and friends. You called the people towards Allah with truth and by clear and open arguments, and by wisdom and good advice. Then you ordered the establishment of lawful limits and the obedience of Allah, and restrained people from evil, prohibited sinful acts. But the atrocious people oppressed you with injustice and tyranny. So you warned them of divine retribution before you made jihad with them. And you emphasized to them and presented a firm argument against them, but in spite of this they broke every oath and allegiance regarding you. And they angered your Lord and your grandfather and initiated the attack upon you. So you also became prepared with spear and sword for the battle and attack. And you routed the army of transgressors. And You were surrounded in the dust of the battle and fighting with Zulfikar with so much ferocity as if Ali A.S. was himself fighting. So when the enemies saw you to be resolute and fearless, they began to plot and lay traps for you and began to fight with you with the cunning and mischief. And the accursed Umar ibn Sa'ad ordered his cunning army to cut off the water supply. And all of them unleashed their atrocities towards you. They did not take into consideration the duties with respect to you. They did not hesitate to slay you and your group of followers. How great was their sin of plundering your belongings! You were bearing the tribulations of the battle with so much patience that the angels of the sky were astonished. Then the enemies surrounded you from all the sides and began to give you one injury after another and made you fatigued. No helper remained between you and your women and children. You were still deflecting the crowd of attackers with persistence and patience away from your women and children. Till the teary one they forced you down from the horse back. And you descended to the earth, wounded. The horses were trampling you with their hooves. The atrocious army fell upon you with their swords. The perspiration of death appeared on your forehead, and your hands and feet folded and unfolded to the right and the left. You were beholding your wounds and your children too, when in such a situation you might not have thought of your children and family due to the severe pain. At that time your horse galloped towards your camp, weeping and neighing. When your ladies saw your riderless horse and the saddle which had slipped downwards, they became restless and came out of the tents. Their hair awry, they slapped their own faces and wailed and lamented. They were calling their elders and ancestors in a dejected condition after having been so much respected. They all headed towards the place of your slaughter. What a pity! That at that time the accursed Shimmer was astride your chest and was moving his sword upon your neck as he held your hair with his hand, and was slaughtering you in this way with his sword. You had become motionless and your breathing was about to stop. Till the time you were beheaded and your head was raised up on the sword. And your women were arrested like slaves and tied up with heavy iron chains and made to sit on the camels. Their faces were seared in the heat of the sun during the day. They were taken around in the desert and wilderness like homeless people. Their hands were tied to their necks. In this condition they were made to march in the markets. Woe be unto those disobedient transgressors who murdered Islam by killing you, and invalidated the prayers and fasts, and broke up the prophetic practice and the Islamic laws, and demolished the regulations of faith. and burnt up the verses of the Quran, and they rushed into transgression and rebellion. Certainly the Holy Prophet S.A.W.S. became a victim of injustice, because of your death which he could not avenge. And the Book of Allah became airless. And your harassment was actually the harassments of truth. And because you were not any more, the calls of Allahu Akbar and La ilaha illallah lost their essence. No criteria remained for the distinguishing of the prohibited and the permitted acts. Neither the Quran, its meaning and its exegesis remained. And after you was the advent of open distortion in Shariat and the spread of false beliefs, and the ineffectiveness of Islamic law. There was a surge in the selfish desires and deviations, and there was an advent of corruption, transgression and evils. Thus the pleader came near the grave of your grandfather, the Prophet peace be upon him and his progeny, and pleaded with tears flowing from his eyes. He said, "Zero Prophet of Allah. Alas! Your grandson, your children have been massacred. And your family and your devotees have been harassed and killed. Your progeny were taken as prisoners after your demise. And your modest Kwan ones and dose relatives were put through untold hardships." Hence the Holy Prophet S.A.W.S. became very aggrieved, and his soft heart began to weep. The angels and the prophets offered condolences to him with regard to you. Your respected mother, Zara S.A., was in agony because of your massacre. Armies after armies of angels arrived to offer their condolences to your respected father Amirul Momineen A.S., and the martyrs stated for you in the skies. Houris of paradise slapped their own faces in your grief. And the sky began to weep, and so did its inhabitants, and the chain of mountains began to cry, and the sea and the fishes wept. And Mecca and its buildings and paradise and its young male servants and Kaaba and the Maqam-e Ibrahim and hill and Haram all began to sob. O Allah! For the sake of the respect of this lofty house, bestow peace upon Muhammad and the progeny of Muhammad, and include me in their company, and cause me to enter heaven through their recommendation. O Allah! Seek a medium for you audience. O the one who is a swift reckoner and the most munificent of the munificent ones. And O King of Kings, through Muhammad, the seal of the prophets, your messenger towards all the worlds, and for the sake of his brother who is the greatest mine of knowledge and wisdom, that is Ali A.S. Amirul Momineen, and for the sake of Fatima S.A., the chief of the ladies of the worlds, and for the sake of Imam Hassan A.S., the purified one and the one who is the refuge of the muttaqin, those who fear Allah most, and for the sake of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein A.S., who is the most honored of the martyrs, and by his children who sacrificed along with him, and for the sake of his oppressed children, and for the sake of Ali ibn al-Hussein Zain al-Abidin A.S., and for the sake of Muhammad ibn Ali A.S., who is the central point of the worshippers, and for the sake of Jafar ibn Muhammad A.S., who is the most truthful among the truthful ones, and for the sake of Musa ibn Jafar A.S., who propounded the clear arguments, and for the sake of Ali ibn Musa A.S., the helper of religion, and for the sake of Muhammad ibn Ali A.S., the foremost of the guides, and Ali ibn Muhammad the most pious among the pious people, and for the sake of Hassan ibn Ali A.S., the inheritor of the Imams A.S., and for the sake of the one who is the proof upon all the creation, that you shower blessings upon Muhammad and the progeny of Muhammad, the most truthful ones and the best people. Those who are given titles like Ale Taha, the progeny of Taha, and Ale Yasin, the progeny of Yasin, and that you make me on the day of Qiyamah as the one who is the recipient of peace, satiated, successful, joyful, and the happy one. O Allah, write my name among those who submit to you and keep me attached to the righteous, and I should be remembered by those who come after me with goodness, and help me to combat the traitors and save me from the plots of the deceitful ones, and restrain from me the hands of the oppressors, and gather me with my righteous guides together and install me in the best place and position of the dwellers of paradise, with those upon whom is your bounty, those who are from the prophets and the truthful and martyrs and the righteous. By your mercy, O the most merciful of the merciful ones. O Allah, implore you in the name of your infallible messenger and by your command which is definite, and your prohibitions which are shunned, and by this purified grave which is visited by jinns, angels and men coming from all directions. Besides which rests the oppressed one-wired infallible Imam A.S. Remove my sadness and grief and erase the undesirable part of my destiny, and give me refuge from the fire of hell. O Allah, heap up for me your bounties and satisfy me with your destiny for me, and hide me in your munificence and generosity, and keep me far from your punishment, from your retribution and your penalties. O Allah, Save me from every deviation and correct my speech and my actions and bestow a long life upon me and save me from disease and ailments and pain, and cause me to achieve the best of my wishes through the means of my masters and through your grace. O Allah, bestow peace upon Muhammad and the progeny of Muhammad and accept my repentance and have mercy upon my weeping and pardon my sins and remove my difficulties and ignore my mistakes, and make my children righteous, O Allah. Do not leave even a single sin of mine unpardoned at this exalted place of martyrdom. And do not leave even one of my faults exposed and remove each and every sadness and grief. And do not leave I even a bit of my sustenance without imparting it abundance. And do not leave any position unexalted. And do not leave a single prayer unanswered, and do not leave any difficulty unsolved, and do not leave a single restlessness unchanged by ease. And do not leave a single affair incomplete, and not a bit of wealth without bestowing increase in it. And not a single moral attitude without perfecting it. And not a single condition without making it better. And not a single evil without correcting it. And not a single jealous person, but that you destroy him. And not singular enemy without annihilating him. And not a single evil without saving me from it. And not a single malady without curing me from it. And not a single distant one without making it near. And not a single difficulty but that you remove it. And not a single wish but that you fulfill it. O Allah, certainly I invoke you for betterment of the world and for the rewards of the hereafter. O Allah, bestow upon me the halal sustenance so that I am not in need of any haram. And bestow so much of your grace upon me that I do not wish anything from your creatures. O Allah, I invoke you for the useful knowledge and a fearful heart and a belief that does not harbor any doubt. And a pure action, and the best patience and a bountiful reward. O Allah, give me the tawfiq to thank you for your bounties upon me and increase you blessings and mercy for me and make my advice such that people follow it and make my actions esteemed in your eyes and make my good acts such that they deserve to be followed. And destroy my enemy. O Allah, send the blessings upon Muhammad and the progeny of Muhammad. They are the best of the creations. And continue these blessings upon these personages through the days and nights. And save me from the evils of the evildoers and purify me from sins, and their burden, and give me refuge from hellfire. And let me dwell in paradise, the house of the hereafter. And give me salvation unto my brothers. And bestow for us a place in paradise. And my sisters, all of those who are the believing men and believing women. By your mercy, O the most merciful of all the merciful ones. Arabic. Translation. Transliteration. No text. No text. No text.